Welcome one and all to episode 28 of Titan Teatime. I am one of your hosts, Petter, and with me I got my co-host, James.
Hello.
And today we're talking about the female Titan arc of the Attack on Titan manga. Or taking a look back at it, I suppose. As with all of the episodes of this little sub-series of Titan Teatime, we will be talking, about the entire series from, to some degree, but focusing on volumes 5 to 8, that is chapters 19 to 34 in this discussion. So it's a reread of the female Titan arc.
Yes.
Volume 5 actually doesn't open up with chapter 19, it opens up with Ilse's notebook, which I think is a great side story. A shame it wasn't part of like the main part of the anime when they adapted it.
Yeah.
They made it into like an OVA, not actually part of season 1. Which I think is a bit of a shame because it's such an interesting and important part of the story, I think. It shouldn't be considered like a side thing necessarily.
Right. I mean, that's the first time we get the kind of moniker or the name drop of subject of Ymir, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's huge. Obviously, that doesn't really mean much at that time, but it's still a huge thing to have that mentioned there for the first time. And to have and it's the only time ever I think in the story where we see a pure Titan speaking, and that's obviously also very, very interesting.
It's very strange. Even with the manga over, it's still kind of strange, that whole situation, because we didn't have too many examples of pure Titans speaking, right?
No, I think this is literally the only one. I'm pretty sure.
Right. So it's very abnormal altogether.
Oh yeah. Oh
not,
yes.
Not just because it's abnormal Titan, but just its behavior and all that, and bowing. It could have been one of those things where you see I'm gonna put it there just as a precursor or potential playing on some maybe elements of the story, but I think what in the end what we got from it was that name, and also the fact that, at least for what I take out of it after thinking about it a long time, was the reason why it bowed down and was just kind of complacent at that moment was that it recognized her as a subject of Ymir, as like a fellow comrade kind of a thing. And that because they were both subjects of Ymir, for some reason this Titan had a feeling not to eat her.
I actually have.
Now, how do you take it?
I have a different idea there, and it's actually tied not. Well, obviously it's tied to Ymir, the founder, obviously because that's who she was the original Ymir. But I think it's all even more so tied to Freckles Ymir, in this instance because.
So I thought that as well, but how? Why? It doesn't make any sense.
Because she came from Marley, and
yeah,
during her life there, she was made into an idol for those Eldians who believed very, very strongly in Ymir and stuff like that. I don't know if they were restorationists or something akin to that, but she became like a figurehead for like one of those cults in a way in Marley. And I feel relatively confident that this Titan was one of those worshippers that worshipped literal Freckles Ymir as the real Ymir back in Marley, and he thought Ilse looked a lot like Ymir.
Right, she has freckles too.
Yeah, exactly. Ymir Freckles' face was like the face that he associated with Ymir, the founder. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah. Did we see this Titan's face in any of Ymir's flashbacks about that point in her life?
I should have looked this up.
Well, I didn't either, even though it was an idea that I did have, but because I didn't think I recognized the face at all, and I guess me being lazy, I didn't look it up. I said, okay, maybe this just isn't the case, because he does say subject of Ymir. Why wouldn't he just say like Lady Ymir or
That's a fair point.
Goddess Ymir or something like that, But if it is a face that we see, because as we've seen Isayama do before, then yeah, totally. I think that's got to be what it is.
Yeah, in that case, definitely. And even if we don't see his face there, I'm still probably gonna believe this because I mean, surely there were
That's fair.
like not everyone there were in the panels. I'm guessing, but
Right.
anyway, definitely like a really cool chapter regardless. And one other thing, where Ilse dropped the notebook and where Hanji later
Mm-hmm.
on found it, there were these white flowers growing in the grass there. The ones that we've been talking about or pointing out throughout the series,
Oh
sort of
yeah.
throughout our chapter discussions,
Yeah.
were growing right there where the notebook dropped, which I thought was really cool because I'm pretty sure that whenever they've appeared on the previous times that when we have pointed them out, it's always been somehow in relation to Emir. I'm quite sure. And while this isn't completely, I guess it's not directly related to Emir, it still definitely is like narratively very much related to Emir. And it's also, I'm quite sure it's got to be the first time in the story that we see those flowers, or at least any sort of focus on flowers like that.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's I'm because I didn't pick up on it at all during the well last month when we talked about the Trost arc. So so yeah, it's really cool to see how Isayama really started using them in that sort of way. Obviously, I don't know if there is any like actual deep meaning to it, but still for him to use them visually the way he does from this early on in the story, I thought was really cool to notice. And I've always thought those flowers looked a lot like a type of flower that we got growing a lot over near where I live, or in like
Oh.
in this area, or I think largely throughout most of, like a lot of Sweden. I think at least the southern half, which is pretty much where most people live. Um, and I looked it up in English. It's called ox-eye daisy. I'm obviously I can't say for sure that's the flower that it is, but it's what I think it looks a lot like, and a flower that I've definitely seen a lot of in my days. I think it's like the regional flower of my county, like the one like.
That's cool.
But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to touch on the flower a little bit.
Yeah. I honestly have no idea if there was particular, well, story meaning behind the flowers other than
Right.
potentially representing Ymir. But I remember you bringing them up, and then we would try to, you know, theorize or discuss them, and I think they
Mm.
were fun discussions and really got our mind thinking about certain themes and whatnot.
Uh huh.
So at the very least, I think that for Isayama, the flowers being there maybe was just kind of a imagery type of a situation,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. Yeah. Like I can't think of it being anything necessarily deeper than that, but it's still
Hmm.
I still really like it though.
Yeah, I do as well.
I really enjoy the courtroom scene. Like rereading that again, which was also pretty early on in this arc. I appreciated it because it's a scene early on in the manga that I think really, in a good way, shows the readers that this story can definitely turn political in addition to being an action manga as well, or as we already knew from the Trost arc. But
Right.
it's like basically a full chapter that is very much like about the politics of this fictional world as a little taste of what's to come later on, with the Uprising arc and the Marley arc, definitely delve even deeper into those sorts of themes.
Yeah, I agree, and I guess it shows that while humanity is somehow surviving behind the walls, there's still conflict, as I guess they kind of mentioned and established in the previous arc. But this arc, you see, like you said, the political side of it,
Yeah.
and all the different factions and mindsets. And while humanity is on the brink of extinction and barely surviving, people still have opinions. People still are afraid,
Uh huh.
and um, it's the same as if the Titans weren't there. It's people will have conflict and etc. etc. So
Yeah.
it was an interesting way to be kind of thrown into that side of the inside the wall people.
For sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
hmm So and for a courtroom scene that had a good amount of dialogue, it was pretty entertaining. Just all the stuff that happened. One thing I'll mention is before going into the really really entertaining stuff
Uh huh.
was oh shoot, what's his name? Zachary
The yeah Darius Zackley.
Darius Exactly. I think I mixed his name together.
I feel like it should be Zachary though,
Oh yeah.
but I feel like they translated the name wrong to Zachary. But I
Oh,
feel shouldn't it be Zachary?
I don't know. I haven't. I'd have to look at the.
I've never heard anyone named Zachary.
Neither have I. To be fair,
But anyway, his first name is Darius though.
Darius. Well, Commander Zackley, he mentions that some people think Aaron as a demon
Mm.
that will lead us to destructions. Other call him a savior who will bring hope to humanity.
Yeah.
And I guess it's both.
Yeah.
Probably more the destruction of humanity. Well, not even humanity. The Eldians, because the Eldians eventually were destroyed, but you could argue that was
True.
at their own hands. Um,
Yeah.
the Jaegerists and all that.
Right.
But he also was the person to save them from the Titan curse. You know, and try to bring a sort of peace that obviously came through a lot of destruction.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny to see that foreshadowing that was definitely potentially unintentional, but that kind of comparison comes back all the way, or well, has some sort of meaning even towards the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I also thought that was really interesting little line there by Darius where it really becomes like because it's kind of the thing throughout the whole manga almost like where Eren can be viewed well either as a demon or as a hero in a sense like it's always there's always characters of different opinions on that pretty much from the start and all the way until the very end.
I was about to refute that, but I think you're right actually because
In different ways though, yeah.
yeah, in different ways, but even in the beginning of the story, in these first two arcs, there are moments where Eren kind of loses control. He gives Mikasa
Right.
that scar, and then even later on in this arc, when he's on top of Annie, female Titan, he just, he just kind of slowly loses his mind and
Uh-huh.
his composure. And so you could argue, I mean, I don't know if anybody was there to see that, but you could argue that's a bit of a demonish side to it all. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I think that's a good point that Eren has been kind of walking the line in between between good and evil, or well, maybe that's too black and white, in between humanity's savior and a demon throughout the whole story,
Right.
whether he wanted to or not.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Now for the more interesting thing,
Yes.
Levi curb stopping Eren never gets old to me.
No, never.
Just going crazy on his face. I don't know if you've seen those like videos or gifs. This is talking about the anime, but where Levi's kicking his face, but they loop it, so it just like never ends.
Yes.
There's something just really satisfying about it. Not that I want Eren to get his face kicked in, but it's just so well animated. I just love it.
Yes. Yes. Step on me.
Oh gosh, not where I was going with that, but
Well,
okay.
it's where I went with that.
All right. No, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would agree with you. So
Yes.
that was fun to see, but I also love Mikasa's look at it. Just that's where she started hating Levi. Well, yeah, hating. Yeah, hating Levi. I gotta like. I like that. It's comedic, obviously,
Right. Yeah.
but I like that comedic sense of it all.
Yeah. Like her glare, like that. Toward Levi there is like it's deadly.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That whole trial in general was ended up being a gamble by Irvin.
Yeah.
As far as we understand, I don't know if Eren was in on it from the very beginning or not.
I don't think
But
so.
but at the very least he complied, or afterwards he was like, oh yeah, like I totally understand why you had to do that.
Yeah. Right.
So it just this kind of established how cunning and forward thinking Irvin is
Uh-huh.
as he tries to reach his goals and get what he wants.
Yeah.
So I think that was just a little taste of what happens throughout this arc.
Definitely. Yeah. I think like because this arc definitely in like well, at least I know Levi appeared slightly in the Trost arc, but Levi, Hanji, and Erwin, they really got, I guess, their proper introductions in this arc. uh, and
Mm-hmm.
I think this arc, like even just the first book of this arc, like Volume 5, did a great job at doing that, like introducing those three characters, like pretty
Absolutely.
much new characters, and like making us understand sort of, well, what types of characters they are. So I thought that was excellently done by Isayama.
I agree. I agree. And like you said, that extends to Hanji as well. Um, you know, at the start of this arc, we just see her bring in Aaron into a courtroom.
Yeah,
So we didn't really understand how quirky Hanji could be,
yeah,
and then you get that infamous, you know, all nighter scene with her and Aaron
yes,
that I personally love because one, you get a lot of interesting lore bits, but then it's also comical and you just see how just I don't know, just how obsessive and excited she gets over the Titans.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, right. It definitely does the job of that really, really well with, well, the backstory with Sonny and Bean, and just the
Mm-hmm.
conversation with Aaron in general that night. Uh, and there was actually something that I picked up on this time around in that scene that I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, maybe, but I thought it was interesting, so I'm gonna point it out. Is that sort of felt like there was one part of that discussion where Hanji was in a way speculating about paths, in
Oh,
some
really?
sense. 'Cause, well, obviously she doesn't mention the paths, and
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah,
paths aren't actually known yet. But I feel like she's sort of on her way there, and like kind of, well, closing in on it a little bit. So because she brought up the fact that severed Titan body parts weigh less than they should, and and also like Aaron's Titan body, how it materializes around him,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and she seemed to draw like some sort of correlation between those two phenomenons, and she says that what we can see and the true nature of what actually exists are totally different things. And I thought that line pretty much sums up, at least to a degree, what paths are, because they are
Oh,
this
okay.
unseeable, or unperceivable thing that exists between all Eldians, and like that's, in a way, without calling it paths, it's basically that, like, I feel like path is basically what he's talking about, or speculating about it at the very least. So I just thought that was a cool little thing. Again, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I thought it was cool nonetheless.
I think you make a great argument. I definitely didn't put it together, and I think it puzzled me a little bit.
Mm,
The thought I had was they see Titans, but in actuality, they're humans just like them. And maybe that's what she's trying to grasp there.
maybe.
Um, I'm not sure, but I think that could extend to just, like you said, paths in general, how it is a somewhat natural phenomenon that they just can't see.
Right. Yeah.
So, did we ever understand why Titans need sunlight in particular? Like,
Ooh.
because they mentioned the whole sunlight thing, and
Uh huh.
I remember watching watching the anime way back when and thinking, why is sunlight their fuel, or why can't they move when it's dark out? What's the point behind that?
Right.
And we get Ymir's backstory and the centipede and everything, and there doesn't seem to be any connection to the sun or anything like that, you know?
Right. Yeah. I have. Yeah. That's been puzzling me a little bit as well, because I remember back when. Because this part of the story I also experienced first through the anime, and I remember when that was when we got that information, I started thinking that what if Titans are somehow related to plants, like some kind of
Yeah.
photosynthesis thing going
Mm-hmm.
on. Obviously, that's not the case.
Mm-mm.
Uh, so yeah, I like the best explanation I can give to that, I guess, is that they need energy somehow, and I guess the sun is what it ended up
A great
being.
form of energy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it could just be one of those. I mean, in the end of the day, it is just one of those things where there's really no explanation, and it's not necessarily needed. But I
Right.
did at the time think that there would be one.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Right.
so, yeah, and that plant idea is an interesting one. Maybe hey, maybe there's some truth to it. Who
Maybe.
knows? We'll never know.
Probably not. um, there was a brief scene right before Irvin's speech to the recruits, like to the new Civic Corps recruits. You know, when he asked them to join, or when he or almost scared them off from joining the Civic Corps. Right before he had that speech, some of the guys from the 104th were standing like by a brick wall, just kind of talking right before that gathering, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember seeing that exact scene in the anime. I don't think they adapted that scene. However, something that I thought was pretty cool was that they used that scene or the imagery of that scene for the second ending sequence of the anime, which is the
Oh
ending sequence for
yeah.
this arc. So I thought
Oh, I totally forgot about
I don't
that.
think I had noticed that before, but I thought that was really nice how even though the scene wasn't in the any of the episodes, it's still sort of there in the ending sequence. It's the one with the walnut that's rolling and like there's like these electric guitars and stuff.
Right. Yeah, the anime adaptation really, while you could say it's faithful, it also took some liberties in certain aspects.
Uh huh.
Not having certain scenes in, adding certain elements to it,
Yeah.
and making things OVAs a lot. Yeah, there was a lot
Right.
of OVAs, uh,
Yeah.
surprisingly. Uh, and as far as I understand, Wit was under the impression this would be their they would only do one season and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think, well, the ending of season one of the anime, which is basically covered in this arc, it does end on like a what? No way kind of situation.
Mm.
It does end the story. Whereas in this arc, when you get that same reveal, the the Titan in the wall,
Yeah.
it it feels like a continuation. I mean, yes, it ends, the chapter ends there, but you keep going,
Oh yeah.
and it's not so much like a giant cliffhanger. It just flows better. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Like I've also thought about that. Like when Wit did the adaptation, they definitely sort of restructured the ending a little bit to make it seem more final in a way. Whereas in
Yeah.
the manga, it definitely, as you said, it really just flows on. Like Mikasa
Mm-hmm.
saw the Titan face in the wall
Right.
when, like, before Annie had gotten like inside of the crystal, right? I think.
I think it was a bit after.
Let me just double check that real quick. No, okay, well, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. It was like, oh, I mean, it's pretty much at the same time, but like, yeah, immediately afterwards. So, it was still like before that scene was over. Whereas in the anime, they sort of ended that scene without Mikasa ever really seeing that Titan phase.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's just I don't know why I felt like bringing up the anime, but I don't know. It's just interesting to see that comparison, and it's nice to. But I still like the flow of the manga. I guess better in this case.
In this case, definitely, yeah. And as you said, there were also some like things they added in the anime that like in the anime Eren struggled even more with transforming into a Titan when he was supposed to face Annie. Even more than he
Yeah.
did in the manga, which I thought they dragged it out too much in the in the anime, to be honest.
I think I'm gonna agree with you there. Especially reading this and just thinking back, it's like it felt way more,
mm,
I don't know, aggravating that he was struggling with it in the anime. Whereas this one, I felt that he couldn't quite grasp it,
yeah,
but it wasn't, it wasn't overdone.
for sure. Right, right. It was still plenty, but yeah, it was just enough in the manga, and also the fight with Annie. You know, in the anime, Eren turns into like he starts burning. He catch flames, and that obviously doesn't happen in the manga. That's
I
something they
totally
added.
forgot about that.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. But and actually one other thing that is for some reason always like the one scene that comes to mind whenever I think of an anime original scene in the Attack on Titan anime uh, is when they're on their way back from the forest back to the walls after having
Mm,
finished with Annie there or the female Titan. There's an entire scene they added where they have to throw bodies off the wagons in order to outrun the Titans that are pursuing them.
right.
That scene obviously was completely an anime original and not at all in this one. And I definitely don't miss it, when I'm reading the manga.
It's why? Why
Right,
did they add
right.
it?
Why? Yeah.
Obviously, they had a strict idea of where they wanted the anime to end,
Hmm.
and so to make sure they ended on that note, I guess they had to add some certain things, and this was just one of them because it really does nothing to extend the story. Maybe it helps Levi understand Levi's emotions a little better, but I mean, we already know that he's upset that these comrades of his are dead.
Yeah. 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 I thought it was an unnecessary addition. Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back a little bit to before they went out on the expedition, and well, I guess the arc as a whole, sort of throughout at least two times. I don't know if it was maybe three times even, but at least on in two different scenes here, we get little shit jokes from Levi, which is obviously something I absolutely love. But one of them in particular, and I don't know if this was the very first one or maybe the second one, but he says to Hanji, he says, "What, were you taking a long shit?" And Hanji responds, "No, that went smoothly." That was so funny, like from both of them. Like I love seeing like
I do
'cause
like that banter.
right, and it really shows how well they know each other at that point. Like already, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
we at this part of the story, as like at least for someone who had just started reading, doesn't really know the characters all that well. But it really goes to show how well they know each other at the very least. So really like that,
Right.
and it's so funny. uh,
You know, I never really understood the Hanji Levi ship, but and not even now, but I do think they have a chemistry in that they know each other, like you said, and they can joke around with each other, and um, they're both senior officers in Survey Corps where the retention rate is really low.
right.
so so yeah, of course they'd um, know each other well and whatnot.
Yeah.
So before they go on their expedition, there's a moment where Aaron sees Mikasa Armin and the gang, and John has a part where he mentions that they're counting on it, Aaron.
Right.
Now he takes his time to get to that point.
Yeah.
He's kind of insulting him the whole way,
Yes.
but he does say that eventually, and I think that one catches Aaron off guard, and
Hmm.
I think it shows that they have reached a point where they are friends, and obviously John understands the situation that Aaron is their only hope, but he's gotten over his kind of dislike for him to, I guess, swallow his pride and say, "Hey, we're counting on you."
Yeah. Right. And like in the end, at the end of the book, when Aaron was unconscious, like he was in the bed, he was there with Armin and Mikasa in the room,
Yeah,
you know, watching over him. So I thought that was also pretty sweet.
yeah, it was nice.
Hmm. So we've talked before on the podcast about, and well, it was probably through when as we were going through the chapters, we were talking about how Titan shifters can gain abilities from other Titan powers by consuming spinal fluid from other, like some of the other nine Titans, and like for example, Annie's Titan surely has gained armor abilities in the same way that Eren ended up doing later in the Uprising arc.
Mm-hmm.
Like just that gimmick. But something I had never thought of before, but I feel like might be a possibility now. Probably nothing, obviously nothing super important, but something that I think is a decent possibility is that Annie might have also consumed some Jaw Titan spinal fluid because of how she, when she opened her mouth to capture Eren
Mm.
after she had defeated him. Like that was very well. It's shocking to see her do that
Yeah.
because like
Oh yeah.
she opens it obviously wider than she should be able to,
Yeah.
and I don't know, and she bites like off part of the neck there. I feel like that's Jaw Titan stuff, like kind of maybe, maybe.
It could very well be because Ymir was the Jaw Titan, right? Before Echo Ymir.
Emir is currently the Jaw Titan.
Oh well, sorry, I was thinking of how the story ends or whatever. Sorry.
Oh.
Yes, she's currently the Jaw Titan.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I didn't. Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you.
Yes,
I
yes.
was in the future.
Right. I mean that's what this story is all about, especially in the last arc. It's like time shenanigans.
Yes,
Where-
time is irrelevant. No, uh, yeah. So she has that Jaw Titan. So she doesn't necessarily, as we know, the Jaw Titan doesn't need like a hardening around the jaw or anything like that,
right,
right?
exactly, exactly.
So it it could very well be that Annie, back in her training, had a piece of the Jaw Titan and
Hmm.
took that into her. That's yeah, that's a good point. I also thought it was a little just well, one, it's disturbing to see her just kind of
Yeah.
rip her skin like that and just open the jaw open,
Yeah.
um, or wide. But yeah, it's knowing what Annie has the ability to do now. It makes more sense that that could be one of the powers that she took onto her own
For sure. Yeah,
in a way.
and it also sort of makes sense considering that I think it was near the end of the manga where I think when Annie, Falco, Gabby, and Kiyomi were on the boat, I I feel like something was mentioned then about the female Titan having an especially easy time to adapt other Titan powers abilities, right?
Yeah,
Or they did say that, right?
yeah.
Um, so with that in mind, it makes even more sense that she would try to get as many as possible, from
Well,
back in Marley.
if I remember correctly, she says they had me eat all sorts of things.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. So
So
yeah, it adds
I think
up.
there's yeah definitely some evidence to that.
Mhm.
And still no flight. Like what the heck?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, right. Because like, let's see. Like, what does she have? She has the scream, which is probably from the founder,
Mm-hmm.
or I guess, and she's got the armor and she's got the jaw. I wonder if there's anything else. Does she have attack Titan stuff as well? Because she is a good fighter, or is that just in her own
Well,
abilities?
how would she have gotten the? I guess
Well,
with
Marley
the
had the attack Titan before the owl took it, right?
yeah, but the owl was before Annie's time.
Right, but
They can't,
they
you can't save a piece.
can you not?
Why? How?
The armor stuff that Aaron found in the Crystal Catacombs wasn't necessarily fresh.
Oh, so you're talking like a serum kind of a thing. I
Right,
because you don't eat a serum, you would be stabbed. This is Annie saying that she ate things. She'd have to eat it.
right. I mean, well, Aaron ate that armor liquid.
Oh, okay, true. It wasn't a shot. He took it into his mouth. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so maybe there is something to that then.
perhaps, perhaps. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, it was just like about that jaw opening. Obviously, before recently, it was always just something I thought was like disturbing, and I guess it looked kind of cool. But then
Mm-hmm.
I reread it now and was like, yeah, dude, maybe it is a jaw titan thing. But yeah, what else do we got on the during the 57th expedition?
Yeah, I just one when I first watched the show and even now, I'm impressed with how I feel like that formation, the long distance scouting formation, is a pretty clever idea,
Oh yeah,
and all the components behind it. And if it wasn't for Annie, it would have worked. Maybe a casualty here and there, but for the most part, it's a pretty great idea and really cool to see in action. I think just the
absolutely.
kind of that teamwork. So I'm really impressed that Isayama was able to come up with that.
Yeah.
A lot of the things he comes up with are really clever, and it just makes you think, would I be able to think of something like that?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I wonder. Yeah, that is really cool. And I also like regarding that, I thought it was also nice to like sort of get a little bit of backstory for, Erwin, as how they mentioned how that formation was something that Erwin came up with some time ago, and that the scouts have been using that probably around since he became commander, I would assume,
Hmm.
perhaps, or, or,
Mm-hmm.
or whenever he came up with it. But that was really nice, and also like getting to know a little bit about Levi's backstory only through some words. I think from Petra, I think it is, who says a
Yeah.
little bit about he used to be a thug in the underground and stuff like that. Have you read the No Regrets manga spin-off
I
series?
have not. No.
Gotcha. We will read that for the podcast eventually, but
Okay.
it's just a 2 volume thing, so we could probably cover that in one episode. But anyway, um, without going too much into that one sort of has Levi probably like the primary protagonist, but also Erwin as like very a close second in like importance to that story, and it sort of shows the origins of Levi's, well, how Levi joined the Service Corps, and also sort of shows a little bit on Erwin's how he started coming up with this long distance scouting formation.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
really
Oh
cool.
yeah, I would really like to see that.
Absolutely.
But I think it's clever in another way because he's able to use that to try to lure out the people who were the spies,
Oh yes.
the people who were the female Titan and the Colossal and Armor Titan. Uh, it turned out to be a pretty clever plan to do that, and it eventually led to a plan to capture the female Titan. So, using a tactic that he had already established, which is clever, but using that for his own or for like another plan, I think was really brilliant as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of a fake out where everyone thinks Aaron's in a different place than he actually is. So it's
Yeah.
really and it sets up the fact that Reiner tells Annie where Aaron actually is.
Exactly.
So that's vital information that they. Well, I don't know if they even use it later on. I guess they
Use what?
show it in the story. So do people put together, like, does Armin put together? Oh, Reiner must have been the one that told Annie where Aaron was.
Yes. They do figure that out or sort of go
Oh,
over
okay.
that when I think it's around the reveal of Reiner and Bertolt.
Ah, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. So yeah, this plan has a lot of implications for the future of the story and finding
Definitely.
the quote unquote traitors.
Yeah. Right. For sure.
You touched on Petra. I think that Isayama did a pretty good job of that group of Levi's kind of trusted soldiers. Petra, Oluo, Eld, and I can't remember
Günther.
is it Gunther or Gunter? I can't.
Actually, I don't
Gunther?
know.
Ah,
Günther. It's probably not a th sound. It's probably just a t sound.
Gunter. Got it.
But yeah.
He made that death pretty impactful when it happens
Yeah.
because you get so much kind of characterization for them. I mean, they're not on the level of Mikasa Armin and the other
No.
recruits, but they definitely had more than some of the people who died earlier on in the story in the Trost arc.
For sure.
And I think those deaths were I guess people really had a reaction to Marco. I honestly, when I first saw it, it didn't scar me as much as seeing those guys die,
Right.
and brutally so.
Yeah. About Marco though, it's probably something along the lines of what we talked about last month about how they just didn't really nail it well enough in the anime.
Oh, you're right.
You're right. I genuinely think they Isayama did it much better in the manga for Marco. But anyway, yeah.
I agree. But I think the anime and obviously the manga pretty much nailed their deaths there.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think. Petra is being one that I remember a lot of people, well, myself remembering, but other people would bring up and be like, oh my gosh, how could they do that, kind of a situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it really is like because following kind of Aaron's mindset and his thought process throughout all of that is also like
Right.
so sort of it's so relatable in a way because it's something that I think a lot of people when when you're watching a film or reading a book or whatever when you're consuming some sort of story and something goes wrong as a reader or as a watcher like as the audience we can always have the thoughts like oh my god they should have done this like or like if we had done that things would have gone so much better so it's so relatable seeing Aaron have those exact thoughts in these scenes. It's like if I had done something different just now, I could have said to say them. Or no, if I had done something different even back then, things could have turned out so much better. Like, I really love seeing those thoughts within Aaron.
Yeah, I agree. It was it was a great way to teach a lesson because if I'm honest, I think a typical kind of anime storytelling would be like trust in your friends all the time. They'll help you. Comrades all the nakama all the way.
Right.
And it kind of felt like that was where it was going when you first watch it.
Mm.
And then they fail epically. You know, I
Uh-huh.
mean well they were impressive at first and you could tell that they
Yeah.
had a lot of skill,
Hmm.
but Annie was just 3 levels higher,
Right.
10 levels higher. It just,
Yeah.
yeah. So it ended
Uh,
in failure, and yeah, and so it teaches Aaron the opposite lesson, or a different lesson: have no regrets. Um,
yes.
and that's kind of how Levi lives his life, or tries to live his life.
Uh-huh.
Although that's really hard to do.
Yeah, right. It really is. Really, really is. But Levi's no regret speech will always be like probably one of my favorite monologues of the series.
Hmm.
Like it's so good and so like like it's wise, and I wish, or probably most people, they like, just wish they could live that way, without struggling.
Yeah.
It would be great. It's I guess it is unrealistic, but it and like sort of idealistic, but it
Hmm.
is I still really really like it, and it's a great mindset to at least strive toward.
Do you think Aaron strived towards that? Do you think all the way towards the end, live with no regrets? Do you think that was going on in his mind as well during all that? I know
Hmm.
it's a complicated. He's a complicated individual, but I wonder
Yeah.
if that was a lesson that he took with him to his grave. I don't
Well,
know.
actually, no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I
Okay.
think he wanted to. The fact that he sort of freaked out like he did when talking about Mikasa and how he wanted to be with Mikasa sort of makes me feel the other way around
Ah.
for him.
Yeah, careful. You'll trigger some people.
I know.
That that paddle triggers people apparently.
It
Um,
does. That
I you know
face.
what? I agree with you that he did live with regrets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a complicated situation and a complicated individual,
Oh yeah.
but he wanted to live a long life with Mikasa and his friends. He wanted to have peace. He
Yeah.
didn't. Part of him didn't want all this, but I
Mm-hmm.
guess in the end, he couldn't live the life without regrets,
Yeah.
which is sad. You know, you have this lesson early on in his life, and he's not able to because he said he even sorry I keep going, but he mentions that he doesn't want to he didn't want to kill all these people,
Right.
or like he knows he can't be forgiven,
Exactly.
um, and that's a regret right there as well. So
I think
anyway,
so for sure. Yeah, and I mean he was crying over it. So,
yeah,
definitely felt some regret there.
I'm still I was still in awe of Irvin's plan, just all coming together. Just let me say that again, 10 out of 10. You know,
Yes. Uh-huh.
having the cannon things in the cart, the barrels. That was an excellent pen, like hiding it that way, and then getting the female Titan to that point, tying her up potentially.
Mm.
It all would have worked perfectly, but they underestimated. I mean, to no fault of their own, really,
Right, yeah.
underestimated Annie's abilities. So she cheated. She uses hacks,
Yeah.
but I digress. Uh, I one of my favorite jokes, just because I don't know. It goes along with kind of your poop jokes. The wet themselves joke was hilarious, where they're going on
Oh.
about how being great, and he's like, oh, by the way, those guys totally wet themselves in their first expedition. They were crying,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh, Aaron, just so you know, I didn't wet
Right.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and Aaron even asked Petra like, "Oh, like did it
Yeah.
spray all over the place or however he
Oh,
like
okay, that's kind of gross.
yeah."
But I mean, I guess that's curious. You could be curious. Anyway, poor Petra.
Oh yeah. And by the way, something I noticed on the volume covers for these four books, Petra appears, I think, on two of them, on volume 5 and 7, and she has blonde hair, but in the anime she has orange, like red hair.
Oh yeah.
So that's something they changed. I mean, they changed Mikasa's scarf as well from black to red. So that's, I guess, has happened a little bit here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Uh, you know, it may be for a good reason though, because when you first look at these volumes, if you don't look closely or don't understand what the story is going to cover, you could think it's Armin. Like,
yes, yes,
you really could.
I agree. I do agree.
Eh, so in that case, I think that the change for the hair color is probably a good one.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like Mikasa having a red scarf also
Well, true.
makes it stand
Yeah.
out a bit more, and
Yeah.
a little bit more iconic, I suppose, compared to black.
Hmm. I love that. Well, it's not really a fight. It's more of just Levi completely owning the female titan in the forest,
Oh yeah.
just going Beyblade crazy on her. And I
Yeah.
forgot that Mikasa completely or almost ruins it,
Uh-huh.
and almost got herself killed.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
Uh-huh.
Like what? It goes to show that even though they have both incredible genetics and they're both probably the strongest people live at that point, Levi is still leagues ahead of her
Oh yes.
um, at this point in the story. So it was just kind of interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the experience, but
Yeah, true that.
I mean, Mikasa's slip up there, or like the mistake she made, is really the reason why Levi is sort of out of action for the entire ending of this arc plus the entire next arc. He's he's not around really because of his injury.
Yeah, do they ever? I remember they mentioned it, or at least Mikasa says if I hadn't done that, Levi would be here too.
Yeah.
It seemed a little vague, like the extent of his injury or why he was there. Do they show it more in the anime, like that he's in a cast or anything?
They don't. I don't think they. I don't think they show anything more. I don't think, but
Hmm.
at least, um, I mean, when that happened, when he got injured, it does show like how the female titan's hand really like hits his leg really hard when
Mm-hmm.
he's like shoving Mikasa out of the way. So he does take damage there, and I think you can see in his face as well on that page that it
Right.
really was really painful. Um, and obviously, as you said, also like Mikasa sort of thinking back to that and feeling a little bit bad for having caused that problem. And he isn't there for the whole
Right.
showdown in Stohis district because he's injured, and he's not really there either, or not in any of the action scenes either throughout. I think the entire Clash of the Titans arc.
Oh.
So he doesn't really get back into action until he faces Kenny, I think, in the Uprising arc.
Yeah. If I'm honest, I think they could have done a slightly better job or Isayama could have done a slightly better job of showing that he was injured. Because
Right.
if Mikasa hadn't said that she felt bad for that, I would just be wondering like why is Levi sitting on the sidelines here, like, or
Mm.
maybe he has to be there in order for their plan to work or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but because of that, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I missed something, you know.
No. No. Yeah. I do agree. I think when I watched the anime the first time, which yeah, again, the first time I experienced this story, also didn't really think of that injury as being that serious that time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
But anyway, that's a good point. I forgot that he's not really in the Clash of the Titans arc, you know.
Yeah, like he's there talking a little bit, but like yeah,
Oh,
he's not
yeah,
there at all for like in the climax. When they're riding out
right.
to fight like to chase after Ymir and Reiner and Bertel.
Yeah.
He's not. He doesn't follow there.
One other thing is, why do you think Annie was crying like she was, uh, at, as the female Titan,
Right.
at the end there? Was it because she failed? Was it because she did all that and wasn't able to come up with Aaron, and she felt maybe some regret there, or did she hurt herself? Like, is she just having a bad day?
I I can see two. Well, one of two things, or maybe a combination of two things. One of them being the fact that she failed. I think
Hmm.
is a decent possibility that you mentioned. but also perhaps some sense of like being sad because of the circumstances that she finds herself in. Because obviously, even though she definitely has, kept to herself mostly throughout the training days because of how she is, surely she has even then she has grown to I imagine, like some of those people to some degree. And I think maybe that's weighing her down. Maybe uh, that might not be
Mm.
the only reason. So perhaps it's a combination. But I like to think that maybe she feels bad for fighting her, like the people that she might think of as friends.
Yeah, I would like to think that's the case, and I think it would make her whole character a little more complex rather than just her being an evil titan, an
Yeah.
evil person who wants to kill people,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
I feel like some people kind of labeled Annie in that way.
Yeah.
Almost similar to Gabby. Not as bad as Gabby. Gabby was
Mm-hmm.
way worse in the abuse she got, but similar in that, oh, how could people be okay with Annie after she killed so many people? And obviously, I think the characters were upset, but there's a time and a place, and I think Annie did show regret. Anyway, I guess it's just nice to have that potentially that bit of complexity.
Right. Yeah. I definitely will think of it that way. I think.
So this is after they leave the forest.
Yeah.
It's kind of a minor thing, but it's just a misunderstanding I had was
Mm-hmm.
with Petra's father coming up and talking to Levi about Petra.
Mm.
When he says like the whole, she dedicates her heart to you, and I think it's a little early for her to be marrying or something like that. When I first like saw the anime, I thought, oh my gosh, they were gonna get married. What? It's a little clumsily done because rereading it, it's like, oh well, no, the father maybe just had a misunderstanding. I, I don't.
Yeah.
I liked it. Well, not liked. I think that's what is happening there, but it should have been worded better.
I mean, I imagine Isayama maybe wanted to keep it a little bit ambiguous.
Oh,
I
okay.
I think I don't know. I don't feel like we ever got that kind of idea necessarily from seeing Petra and Levi interact.
Right. That's why it was so shocking to me when I first saw it. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
no, they were more than roommates.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. And that would make the whole situation a little harder
mm,
for Levi. So,
yeah.
and from that day forth, I was a Petra Levi shipper. But
I mean, so you could also like, in addition to seeing it as Petra's father having misunderstood Petra,
mhm.
you could also see it as Petra having had feelings for Levi, but that she hadn't told him about, but that she had told her father about,
Oh,
perhaps,
okay, yeah.
maybe.
Oh, hey, you know, that's not a bad idea at all.
Huh.
I can see that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the very least, they weren't. I don't think they were a couple beforehand. I think it
No.
was.
Yeah.
Well, I think Petra did have feelings for Levi at the very least.
Mm, mm.
But again, a minor character. So why am I going
Right.
into it? I don't know.
It's all right. I mean, as you have started to know, and as I have started to learn about myself, like you're not really the only person that does shipping on this podcast anymore. I I've started shipping people as well. Maybe not to the same extent as you, but I'm there. I'm on the chart.
Yeah, you start off slow, man. You start off slow. I'd say one of my first ships, besides the when I was a kid, I guess,
Huh.
but probably my first big ship was Mikasa and Eren.
Oh
Not
yeah.
gonna lie. I
Right.
think
I
that was my
think you
first
said
one.
that. I think you mentioned that at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
Attack on Titan, man. It is just a cesspool for shipping. It's just so easy.
I'll be honest though, as far as Attack on Titan goes, I don't know if I really got any like serious Attack on Titan ships.
That's fair. I
Uh,
respect that.
or I guess my biggest one is probably Historia and Emir. But other
Okay.
than them, and even that one is not like super strong for me. But
Hmm.
or I guess Annie Armin.
You ship Mikasa and Aaron now, right? After the thing, or if you
I do,
okay,
but it's also complicated because Aaron died.
yeah,
so
sure,
but yes, I do think they belong together. And I guess that's what shipping is. Um, so
yeah.
yeah. But anyway, moving on to the rest of the things that come after they got home from the scouting expedition. Uh, Something I really loved was seeing how Armin's was. Well, he made a comment that was sort of hinting at the idea of a rumbling already in volume 8.
I know.
Like I love how that
Gosh.
was like just the little idea of that was brought up that
Mm-hmm.
early.
Man.
And Jean just like, oh no, you gotta be joking. Like, don't say stuff like that.
That's what we all thought. That's what we all thought.
Yeah.
Then can come the final arc. It's like, oh crap.
Oh dear. Yeah.
No, it's maybe a little foreshadowing for what Isayama planned, or maybe he wrote that joke and he's like, oh my gosh, that's a brilliant idea.
Right. Exactly. Like again, like we may never know.
um, I guess since you mentioned Armin, I think Armin shines pretty brightly in this arc.
Yeah.
Uh, he has a lot of good moments. He basically figures out Annie is the female Titan. He also puts together that the person who are the colossal and the other these Titans have to be people who are part of the Eldian people. I guess they don't call them Eldian, but the people within the walls. Um,
Mm.
and Irvin figured that out as well, but Armin came to that conclusion himself.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he had great plans, and he showed a bit more confidence in himself, especially towards the end. I felt like now obviously he goes back and forth between lack of confidence and then confidence. It's just
Right.
how he is.
Yeah, I think that's natural.
Right, it's totally natural.
Mm.
I think in this one he definitely showed signs of uh, great courage.
For sure, absolutely.
I was also impressed with John.
Oh,
Towards the beginning of the arc,
tell me
it
more.
was when they were in their formation, I think, or maybe it was after the female Titan had. Oh, it's when they saw the female Titan, and they were with Reiner and Armin.
Mm.
Um, John was basically getting them, trying to talk them into going after the female Titan, and I
Right.
don't know. I thought he said some pretty smart things, and Armin helped out as well. But I thought it was nice to see him take the lead in that aspect.
Absolutely. And it was also fun to see Reiner sort of noticing that change in John,
Yeah.
because obviously he was very self-centered, only wanted to look out for himself, wanted to join the military police brigade. Uh, and yeah, I guess John and Reiner hadn't really had time to talk between there too
Hmm.
much perhaps. Uh, yeah, I don't really have many other specific things about specific parts of this arc. Do you have anything more?
Yeah, just a little bit. So Mikasa, uh, rereading this arc, she plays more of a role towards the end than I thought she did. Besides just being like super cool, she has those really bad A moments where she like kicks Annie off the wall, just fall. He's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yes.
go Mikasa.
Right.
But I don't know, she has these character moments that I think some people kind of gloss over, where she understands that it's because of her Levi's injured, and
Mm,
also that she has to act smarter when it comes to Aaron. She also is the one to kind of get Aaron to snap out of his hesitancy to attack or to fight back against Annie.
right.
So there's a few things that she did that I think strengthened her character that maybe some people don't acknowledge as much as they should. I mean, yeah, people have their own opinions. But
Fair, yeah,
to
right.
me, it was like, oh wow, yeah, she did a lot more here than I remember.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I agree. I think that's a good point. And also, and this is not that deep necessarily, but I love the art of the cover for Volume 8 with Mikasa in the foreground. I think that that's probably one of my favorite drawings of Mikasa,
Oh
and
yeah, it's pretty good.
I also love how it shows like the band around her wrists that she keeps over her tattoo,
Mm-hmm.
which is yeah, forgotten more or less in the anime
How
until
do you miss
the
that,
reveal.
Wit?
Right.
How?
Right. Oh my god. Oh my god. We talked about that last month, but still,
Yeah.
why?
Still, why?
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of the covers, there in this arc there is a couple times where Isayama draws her as an MMA boxer or whatever, or she's a
Oh
boxing.
yeah.
It's like he really wanted to put her on the cover as a boxer.
Yeah.
It was rejected.
Yeah, twice. I think it was twice.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
rejected.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was
And
pretty great.
I think they worked that into the opening sequence of the female Titan arc, right?
Yeah,
In the anime,
it
yeah.
did. She's doing like her sit-ups. Like you see her freaking 8-pack.
Yeah.
Going. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. Look, usually I'm not into like muscular women. I mean, women, women of all bodies are beautiful, but sometimes it's like too muscular is kind of just not my style. But man, Mikasa, oh boy, like that gets. Oh man, I love it. I love it. Anyway,
Yes. Oh my god.
one other Mikasa thing is she's really got that jealous girlfriend look down.
Oh.
I know she's serious and with the female killing or the female Titan killing all their comrades, but the way she looks at Eren and then she says, "Do you have feelings for her?" It's just
Right.
it's like your girlfriend is confronting you over someone that you friended on Facebook or something like that.
I know.
You liked her post. Is there something more to it? You know,
Totally. Oh,
any woman
dear.
that gets close to Eren and she gets that look, man.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's like at the end of the uprising arc when Eren and Historia are
Yes.
they're just friendly with each other. That there's
Right.
also that look again.
It's pretty good.
It's
pretty good.
great. It's great. And I guess while we're on some funny things, obviously ECM always does. Well, maybe not always, or maybe always, but anyway, like these little fake previews, for the next volumes. And out of these four, my absolute favorite one is in the one in volume at the end of volume 8, where it's Sasha slapping Reiner and like a sudden slap, and then an unforeseen elbow, and she's like elbowing him in the face. Like violence suddenly rains down on Reiner for no real reason. It's so funny.
The way it transitions in the volume, it makes it feel like it's. Yeah, at first you're just like, wait, is the story still going? Oh no, this is a fake preview.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I wonder how much time he put into these because their faces are pretty well drawn. Like,
Oh yeah.
they're not weird at all, and they have a lot of detail, like Sasha's face and Reiner's face. So it's all for a joke, all this time. I love it. I'm glad.
Yeah, I love it so much. And I mean, it's funny too, because that's kind of like what Reiner's character became to some extent, was a punching bag, at least to some characters later on in the story. So,
I mean, he's the armor titan, right?
yeah, he can take it.
He could take it. So this is an inconsistency with the manga and the anime that I wanted to bring up, but I thought I saved to the end.
Yes.
To now is Eren transforming to attack Annie in the underground is different. So
Right.
in the manga, Mikasa says that line about the world being cruel place. Then she looks behind at Eren, and then Eren kind of looks back at her and she's like, "Yeah, you're right." And he transforms there. And I thought that reading it now, I was like, "Oh, that's so." I thought it was so well done. I was like, "Ooh, nice."
Yeah.
And it just comes out and punches Annie, and it just transitions so well to me.
Oh yes.
And just how his resolve changes right there. In the anime, as we've mentioned a lot, it's kind of dragged out.
Yeah.
Instead of transforming right there, he gets wrecked by Annie, and he's being behind under rubble.
Right, he's like impaled by stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
but he gets impaled, and he kind of like pulls himself out. Now, I was actually searching on YouTube because I thought I remember the anime doing it differently, and it
Oh,
was.
mm.
And what I found interesting was how many people just love that scene though. They adore it
Oh, really?
because yeah, him like coming out of the or like rising up out of the wood pole or whatever in his chest,
Hmm.
and just the intensity of it all. A lot of people just say it's one of their favorite moments in the entire anime,
Oh,
which and it's not. Yeah, I was just reading the comments, just blown away
huh.
with
Wow.
all these and millions of views, different videos too.
Uh-huh.
And so it's not even in the manga, and yet people adore that moment, and that transformation happens so quick in the manga. But yeah, it's just so different. Now I will admit, watching it and just seeing how nicely, yeah, it has a great bit of animation and his intensity. Oh shoot, what's the voice actor's name? Yuji, I can't remember, but he does a
Mm.
fantastic job
Oh,
with
of course,
the
yeah.
screaming. Um, so I can see why people like it, but this is another one of the cases where I think it just flows better, and is maybe even, well, I can't say more impactful, but to me, I liked it, the snappierness of it in the manga.
Yes, I'm with you there. I'm like I'm sure it was a good like for what it was. I'm sure it was good.
Right.
It's not super fresh in my mind right now.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I do appreciate the pacing in the manga more, I think. Yeah.
Also, that pole in his chest, or and he's like rising up, and it kind of start to come out of him. It kind of makes
Hmm.
me squeamish a
Oh,
little bit.
yeah, that's fair.
It's like, oh,
I also
oh.
wonder, like, again, like it's not fresh in my mind, so I don't remember that added scene too well right now. But what's Annie doing during that time? Is she just waiting for him to get out of there, or, like, well,
Well, okay. Well, that's the crazy thing. She's running away.
oh,
So how does Aaron
hmm,
catch up to her? It doesn't make
right.
sense.
That is, yeah. Well, I think isn't there an added part also in that battle where
Yes,
they get her stuck for a little bit,
you're right.
like the
The Hanji captures her,
yes, for a little, for
but
briefly.
literally she just kicks. She just kicks the things that. Oh, we forgot to do the legs. Ah, silly
Yeah,
us. It's like, how do you forget
yeah.
that?
Yeah, really, the manga is better. Let's just face it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, look, I love the animation and the art
Of
style and
course.
everything. So many things about the anime, but the
Yeah.
pacing, I have to agree with you, man. The pacing is just better in the manga.
Yeah, like a lot of the times I really feel like the first season dragged on a bit too much. It's not just in the female Titan arc, I think it was also in the first half of that season as
Hmm.
well, sadly. Even though obviously there's a lot to love about it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Totally. Hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, this arc obviously was a lot about the Survey Corps. Really introduced that whole aspect
Yeah.
really nicely. I said earlier in the discussion how Erwin, Hanji, and Levi being the biggest new characters in this arc, having been introduced really nicely, and as you mentioned as well, the like Squad Levi, those characters, even though they were smaller, they were also introduced nicely, like for being the types of characters that they are. So their deaths definitely had weight to them.
Hmm.
And like Ilsa's notebook chapter and the courtroom chapter and of course the whole like 57th expedition beyond the walls. Like I feel like all of those parts of this arc sort of show the different sides of the Survey Corps in some really cool ways, I thought. So yeah, the Survey Corps was, I guess, the MVP of this arc.
Yeah, for sure. Thinking about the story now, you can't not think of the Survey Corps.
Mm.
But before this arc, they really were just like, oh, who are these guys towards the end of the Trust arc?
Yeah, for
Like
sure. Yeah, we knew Aaron wanted to join, but that was about it. Or
that was about it,
mm.
right? So, it was kind of, yeah, it was nice to have them be front and center and see for ourselves how deadly that group it can be,
Mm.
or well, being a part of that group can be.
Yeah.
One character I want to just ask you about your thoughts after rereading
Hmm?
up to this point is Annie. How do you feel about Annie? Because this is the last time we see her until way into the future.
Yeah, volume 31, I think she returns in.
So long.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah. Well, knowing her, knowing the entire story, I guess it's easier to appreciate her more, I think.
Hmm.
Because I remember back when I had just seen the first season of the anime, and even after I started reading the manga before Annie came back, and before the Marley arc came around, where she gets a little bit more backstory, like just knowing what, well, up to this part with the female Titan arc, I don't think I had like any super necessarily good thoughts about her.
Ah.
Like I guess the part about her dad definitely intrigued me.
Right.
I remember that much, and it definitely is interesting, and it's fun now too, like having a face to him, because obviously he just appears as a silhouette in the flashbacks in these books, but knowing what he looks like and more about who he is fun. It's fun having that knowledge, I guess, when you get to those flashbacks here. But I guess like those parts were interesting and made me, I guess, wonder more about like how much more is there to Annie's character and stuff like that. And obviously the curiosity about when and how she would get out of the crystal. But yeah, no, I think just based on this, I probably didn't really like her much.
Hmm.
In the similar sense, how that I didn't really like Reiner and Bertolt much until we learned about Marley.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what about you?
You know, I think I really enjoyed Annie, and part of me, well, so when they had to go underground and Annie refused to go, and then Aaron kind of had his hesitations about it all. I was a bit okay, get over it. Like Annie is always the traitor. But before all
Yeah.
that,
Hmm.
and obviously she looks like the female Titan. It wasn't hard to put that piece together. Even think the manga doesn't even try to make it a huge reveal. Like it's almost as if Isayama wanted the reader just to figure it out by just looking at the female Titan.
Right, I feel that way too. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but before that, and just think of Andy's character, I really enjoyed her. That moment with as she trained with Aaron and everything like that.
Hmm.
So I guess it was. I guess I felt similar to maybe a mixture between Mikasa and Armin in that I felt like this woman needs to go or needs to be stopped, but also she was a friend for a long time, and
Yeah.
surely there was a way to talk about it. Uh, Knowing what I know now, and just thinking in hindsight about the overall story, I think Annie was a great way to introduce the concept that there are enemies within humanity.
Oh
It,
yes.
as Irvin says earlier, what do you see? That famous meme,
Yeah.
and I think she kind of represents a perfect that, and gives the reader questions like why are these people this way?
Uh huh.
Or excuse me, like why would Annie want to destroy humanity? Her very own people. Why is that? I guess technically they're
Exactly.
not her people in a way, but they are anyway.
Mm. Right. I mean, like
Yeah.
these early parts of the story, or I guess the entire story from the beginning up until the basement reveal, like there were always so many questions about the world and about why people acted the way they did, and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that was my favorite part of the story because the Marley arc is surely my favorite arc,
Hmm.
but there is still something very very special and something that I hold very like dear to me about that part
Mm.
of the story. And like, cause just thinking back about how I was just so incredibly curious about all of these things because
Right.
there really were so many questions. ECM I was really good at, like especially in that part of the story, at just giving us all of these things to wonder about, and it was just so fascinating to start learning about it like little by little. So yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. So, yeah, I mean, I also wonder, like, when did I start shipping Annie and Armin? You know, like, when did that start happening?
Was it after the time skip or before the time skip?
That's a good question. I think there was like a hint of it because of how Armin and Annie interacted with the whole, you know, good person, bad thing. And
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was the start of it. But then she was in the crystal for so long.
Right. Exactly. If anyone would start shipping them before the time skip, the whole good person thing would be the reason for it. I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Or hey, maybe Armin was just looking at the female Titan and is like, dang.
Yeah.
The Titan with the nice.
Yeah, I
who,
mean,
who, who
Ryder
named it
definitely
that?
thinks so.
That was the right. That was Ryder who said that. Gosh, if Annie heard him say that,
Oh, she would be so mad. Oh my god, yeah. But yeah, last month I asked you if like which character you thought had the best or the most interesting character journey or kind of story arc throughout this part, like these specific books.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a character for you that fits that bill for this part of the story?
Good question. I'm so indecisive, and it's hard for me to choose one. So I'm gonna start with the easy one, Aaron.
Right.
Just because he goes through so much struggling in understanding how to control, and obviously he still has that, but he eventually learns that he needs a purpose in order to transform, and also the whole conflict with living with no regrets. That lesson, that was a big step for him, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think with Aaron, and then my other one was Armin because I felt like he shined a lot in this arc.
For sure.
In various ways.
Definitely. I have a really hard time answering this question as well. Last time I was very prepared with answering my own question about this, but I thought about it and I have a hard time. I think I'm gonna have to go with Aaron though ultimately. Actually, because just following along with his struggles, and it really focused a lot on his thoughts and stuff like that throughout this book or these books. So I thought that was a lot of interesting to follow along with. So
agreed. And now I don't think Aaron will be the highlight in every arc.
No,
but
absolutely.
I think in this case, it's definitely fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree there. Any closing thoughts on the female Titan arc?
This arc, it does start off with quite a bit of dialogue, but it quickly becomes an action-heavy arc.
Oh, yes.
It felt, those middle two volumes felt like they went by like a breeze, you know?
yeah,
like so quick.
They were basically exactly the expedition. So, yeah, tons of action there.
Mm-hmm. One other thing is that ending reveal with the Titan being in the wall. Talk about mind-blowing, and just like at the time, because that was just one guess. That's just something you couldn't guess, that the walls would be made out of actual Titans, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So that was so surprising reading it back then, and yeah, just understanding that in hindsight how much of a role that plays and how the story ends.
Definitely.
Is, mind-blowing.
Yeah. It's so cool, all of these little things that Isayama just, well, he lays the groundwork for, and then it has the payoff like way later.
Yeah.
Like not only the Titans inside of the walls, but Annie inside of the crystal as well. Both of those things will have their payoffs, well, at the exact same time, actually, but later. Right. So yeah. But yeah, I think that is it for our discussion of the female Titan arc.
Works for me.
Yeah. So if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our shows on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it around with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about the Clash of the Titans arc. Bye bye.
See you later. See you later. I would have said that weird.
That's fine.
See you later.
It wasn't that weird.
See you later.